Margaret Washington pushed her cleaning cart down the long hallway of Sterling Financial Building. The wheels made a soft squeaking sound on the polished marble floor. It was 8:30 in the evening, and most of the office workers had gone home to their families. The building was quiet now, except for the hum of computers and air conditioning. She had been working here for 3 years. 3 long years of cleaning up after people who never really saw her. Margaret was 42 years old and had strong hands from years of hard work. Her dark skin showed the wisdom of someone who had seen many struggles in life. She wore a simple blue uniform with her name tag that read Margaret in small letters. Every night she walked through the same offices. Every night she saw the same mess left behind by busy executives. Papers were scattered on desks like fallen leaves. Coffee cups sat empty with brown stains at the bottom. Waste baskets overflowed with crumpled documents that probably contained important information. Margaret noticed everything. She had always been good at seeing details that others missed. When she cleaned Mr. Peterson's office, she saw his financial reports spread across his desk. The numbers told a story of a company losing money but trying to hide it. When she emptied trash cans, she sometimes saw important contracts thrown away by mistake. In her younger days, Margaret had worked in an accounting office in Detroit. She was good with numbers and understood how businesses worked. She could read financial statements and knew what made companies successful. But life had not been kind to her. Her husband left when their daughter was 5 years old. Margaret had to take any job she could find to pay the bills. Now she worked nights cleaning offices while her daughter slept. During the day, she tried to rest, but often stayed awake thinking about all the business problems she saw in these offices. She wanted to help but knew that nobody would listen to a janitor. As Margaret cleaned each office, she learned about the people who worked there. Sarah Chen always stayed late working on presentations. Her desk was always messy with papers, and she seemed stressed all the time. Margaret could see that Sarah was struggling with her work, but was too proud to ask for help. Mr. Davidson was the boss of the whole department. His office was big with expensive furniture, but his reports showed that his team was not doing well. Margaret could see the problems clearly. The marketing campaigns were confusing, and the sales numbers were going down each month. Young Tom Bradley, fresh out of college, sat at a desk near the window. He had good ideas, but did not know how to present them properly. Margaret often found his brilliant proposals in the trash can because nobody understood what he was trying to say. Every night Margaret watched these smart, educated people struggle with problems that seemed simple to her. She had learned about business the hard way by working in the real world. She understood what customers wanted and how to make things work efficiently. But Margaret was invisible to them. When she cleaned around their desks, they barely looked up. When she emptied their trash, they acted like she was not even there. To them, she was just the cleaning lady who came at night when they were too tired to notice. Margaret often wondered what would happen if she tried to help. What if she told Sarah how to fix her presentations? What if she showed Mr. Davidson where his marketing strategy was failing? What if she helped Tom organize his ideas so people would listen to him? But she knew the truth. Nobody would take advice from an African-American woman who cleaned offices for a living. They would think she was overstepping her place. They might even fire her, and then she would have no way to support her daughter. So Margaret kept quiet and continued cleaning. She watched and learned, and hoped that someday someone would see that she had more to offer than just keeping their offices clean. She dreamed of a day when her knowledge and experience would matter as much as her ability to dust furniture and empty trash cans. Every night as she finished her work, Margaret looked at the city lights through the tall windows. She thought about all the potential inside her that nobody would ever see. She was more than just a janitor, but the world had decided that was all she could be. It was a Thursday evening in October when Margaret pushed her cart toward the marketing department. The hallway felt colder than usual, and the fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. She could hear someone crying softly from one of the offices. Margaret stopped pushing her cart and listened carefully. The sound was coming from Sarah Chen's office. Margaret had watched Sarah for months as she struggled with her work. Sarah was 28 years old and had joined the company 6 months ago. She was smart and worked harder than anyone else, but something was not going right for her. Margaret quietly moved her cart closer to Sarah's office. Through the glass door, she could see Sarah sitting at her desk with her head in her hands. Tears were falling onto the papers spread across her desk. Her computer screen showed a presentation that looked like a complete mess. Sarah was talking to herself in a broken voice. "I cannot do this anymore. I am going to lose my job. My parents worked so hard to send me to college, and I am failing them. What is wrong with me? Everyone else seems to understand, but I just cannot get it right." Margaret felt her heart breaking as she watched this young woman suffer. She had seen Sarah working late every night for weeks. Sarah would stay until 10 or 11 o'clock trying to fix presentations that never seemed to work. Her desk was always covered with printed reports and sticky notes with reminders written in messy handwriting. The presentation on Sarah's computer screen was about customer retention strategies. Margaret could see the problems immediately. The charts made no sense, and the data was presented in a confusing way. The whole structure was wrong from the beginning. Sarah had good ideas, but she did not know how to organize them properly. Margaret remembered when she worked at the accounting firm in Detroit. She had helped create many presentations for clients. She knew exactly what executives wanted to see and how to make complex information easy to understand. But that was 15 years ago, before her life fell apart. Sarah stood up from her desk and walked to the window. She pressed her forehead against the cold glass and stared down at the street below. "Maybe I should just quit before they fire me. At least then I can keep some dignity. But how will I pay my student loans? How will I explain this to my family?" Margaret wanted to walk away and pretend she had not seen anything. It was not her business, and getting involved could only cause trouble. But something about Sarah's pain reminded Margaret of her own struggles. She remembered how it felt to work hard and still fail. She remembered the shame of not being good enough. Sarah walked back to her desk and started typing frantically. She was trying to fix the presentation again, but Margaret could see that she was making it worse. Sarah deleted whole sections and then tried to rewrite them. She moved charts around randomly, hoping something would work. "This is hopeless," Sarah said out loud. "I do not understand why this is so hard for me. In college, my professors said I was talented, but here I feel like I know nothing. Maybe I am just not cut out for the business world." Margaret watched as Sarah printed out another version of her presentation. Sarah looked at the papers and then crumpled them up in frustration. She threw the papers toward the wastebasket but missed. The crumpled papers scattered across the floor. That was the moment when Margaret made a decision that would change everything. She could not watch this young woman destroy herself over problems that had simple solutions. Margaret had knowledge that could help Sarah succeed. She had experience that Sarah desperately needed. Margaret took a deep breath and knocked softly on Sarah's office door. Sarah looked up, surprised to see the janitor standing there. Her eyes were red from crying and her hair was messy from running her hands through it. "Excuse me, miss," Margaret said in her quiet voice. "I am sorry to bother you, but I could not help noticing that you seem upset. Is everything okay?" Sarah wiped her tears quickly and tried to smile. "Oh, hi, Margaret. Yes, I am fine, just having a difficult day with this presentation. Do not worry about me." Margaret looked at the mess on Sarah's desk and then at the broken expression on Sarah's face. She knew this was her moment to step forward or stay invisible forever. "Miss Sarah," Margaret said carefully, "I have been cleaning offices for many years, and I have seen a lot of presentations. Sometimes I notice things that might help. Would you mind if I took a look at what you are working on?" Sarah looked at Margaret with confusion and surprise. No one had ever offered to help her with work before, especially not the cleaning lady. Sarah wondered if Margaret was just being polite, or if she really meant what she said. "You want to help me with my presentation?" Sarah asked slowly. "I mean, that is very kind of you, Margaret, but this is pretty complicated business stuff. I have been working on customer retention strategies and market analysis." Margaret stepped into the office and closed the door behind her. She had made her decision, and there was no going back now. "Miss Sarah, I know you might think it is strange, But I used to work in business before I started cleaning offices. I worked at Henderson Accounting in Detroit for 8 years. Sarah's eyes widened with interest. She had never heard Margaret talk about her past before. You worked in accounting. What did you do there? I helped prepare financial reports and presentations for clients, Margaret explained. I worked with numbers every day and learned how to make information clear and easy to understand. I also helped train new employees on how to present data to executives. Sarah felt a spark of hope for the first time in weeks. What happened? Why did you leave accounting to work as a janitor? Margaret's face grew sad as she remembered those difficult times. My husband left when my daughter was little. I had to move to Chicago to live with my sister, but I could not find accounting work here. I needed a job right away to pay bills, so I took cleaning work. That was 3 years ago. Sarah looked at Margaret with new respect. She realized that she had been so focused on her own problems that she never thought about the lives of people around her. Margaret, I had no idea. I am so sorry. Do not be sorry, Margaret said with a gentle smile. Life is hard sometimes, but we keep moving forward. Right now, I want to help you if you will let me. I have been watching you struggle for months, and I think I can show you what is wrong with your presentations. Sarah hesitated for a moment. What would people think if they found out she was getting help from a janitor? But then she looked at her computer screen and remembered how hopeless she felt. She was about to lose her job anyway, so what did she have to lose? Okay, Margaret, Sarah said. I would be grateful for any help you can give me. This presentation is due tomorrow morning, and I am completely lost. Margaret walked over to Sarah's desk and looked at the computer screen. She studied the presentation carefully while Sarah watched nervously. After a few minutes, Margaret began to speak. The first problem is that you are trying to show too much information at once, Margaret explained. Executives are busy people. They want to see the main points quickly and clearly. Right now, your slides have too many numbers and charts that confuse the message. Sarah nodded as she listened. Margaret's words made sense in a way that all her business school training had not. Margaret continued. The second problem is that you are not telling a story. Every good presentation needs to have a beginning, middle, and end. You need to explain the problem, show your analysis, and then give your solution. Right now, you are jumping around between different ideas. I never thought about it that way, Sarah said. In school, they taught us to show all our research and analysis. Research is important, Margaret agreed. But executives do not want to see your homework. They want to see your conclusions and recommendations. Save the detailed analysis for the appendix. Margaret pulled up a chair and sat next to Sarah. Let me show you how to reorganize this presentation. We will start with a simple outline that tells your story clearly. For the next hour, Margaret worked with Sarah to rebuild the presentation from scratch. She showed Sarah how to create slides that were clean and easy to read. She explained how to use charts that actually supported the main points instead of confusing them. You have really good ideas, Margaret told Sarah. The problem was just in how you were presenting them. Look at this data about customer complaints. This shows exactly why customers are leaving and what we can do to keep them. Sarah watched in amazement as Margaret transformed her messy presentation into something clear and professional. Margaret seemed to understand exactly what executives wanted to see and how to give it to them. Margaret, this is incredible, Sarah said. You have made everything so much clearer. Where did you learn to do this? Experience, Margaret replied. I have seen hundreds of presentations over the years. I know what works and what does not work. The key is to remember that you are trying to help busy people make decisions. Give them what they need in a way they can understand quickly. As they worked together, Sarah began to see Margaret in a completely different way. This was not just a cleaning lady who happened to know about business. This was a skilled professional who had been hidden in plain sight. Margaret, Sarah said quietly, would you be willing to help me with more presentations in the future? I mean, if you have time, and if it would not be too much trouble. Margaret smiled. For the first time in 3 years, someone was asking for her professional knowledge instead of just her cleaning services. I would be happy to help you, Miss Sarah. but we should probably keep this between us for now. People might not understand." Sarah nodded. She realized that Margaret was right. The corporate world was not ready to accept help from someone in a janitor's uniform. But Sarah did not care about what other people thought. She had found exactly what she needed. The next morning, Sarah walked into the conference room feeling nervous but hopeful. She carried the presentation that she and Margaret had worked on together. For the first time in months, she felt like she actually understood what she was going to say. Mr. Davidson sat at the head of the long table with 3 other executives. Sarah had failed to impress them so many times before that she could see doubt in their faces. They were probably expecting another confusing presentation full of charts that made no sense. "Good morning, Sarah," Mr. Davidson said. "I hope you have something better for us today. As you know, our customer retention numbers have been terrible, and we need real solutions, not more analysis." Sarah took a deep breath and began her presentation. She started exactly the way Margaret had taught her, with a clear statement of the problem. "Our company is losing 20% of our customers every year. This is costing us $2 million in lost revenue." The executives leaned forward with interest. Sarah had never started a presentation so directly before. Usually she spent 10 minutes explaining her research methods before getting to any real information. Sarah continued through the presentation following the structure that Margaret had helped her create. She showed 3 main reasons why customers were leaving. She presented data that was easy to understand. She offered specific solutions that could be implemented immediately. "These are excellent insights, Sarah," said Mrs. Rodriguez, the head of customer service. "Your analysis is clear and your recommendations make sense. This is exactly what we needed to see." Mr. Davidson nodded in agreement. "Sarah, this is impressive work. You have identified problems that we have been struggling with for months. How did you figure all this out?" Sarah felt a moment of panic. She wanted to give Margaret credit, but she knew that would raise too many questions. "I spent a lot of time studying our customer feedback data and looking at patterns in the complaints." "Well, whatever you did, it worked," Mr. Davidson said. "I want you to implement these recommendations immediately. This could really turn things around for our department." Sarah left the meeting feeling proud and excited. Her presentation had been a complete success. But she also felt guilty because she knew that Margaret deserved most of the credit. That evening, Sarah waited in her office until most people had gone home. When Margaret arrived with her cleaning cart, Sarah was ready with good news. "Margaret, the presentation was amazing," Sarah said excitedly. Everyone loved it. Mr. Davidson said it was the best analysis he had seen in months. "They want me to implement all of our recommendations." Margaret smiled as she began cleaning Sarah's desk. "That is wonderful, Miss Sarah. I am very happy for you. You did a great job presenting the information." "But Margaret, you are the one who made it all possible," Sarah said. "You took my mess and turned it into something brilliant. I feel terrible taking credit for your work." Margaret stopped cleaning and looked at Sarah seriously. "Miss Sarah, you had all the right information and good ideas. I just helped you organize them better. The success belongs to you because you are the one who did the research and you are the one who presented it." Sarah shook her head. "That is not true, Margaret. You saw problems that I could not see. You knew exactly how to fix everything. You have knowledge and skills that I need to learn." "Then let me teach you," Margaret offered. "If you want to learn how to create better presentations, I can show you everything I know. But you have to promise me that you will make this knowledge your own." For the next 2 hours, Margaret gave Sarah a complete lesson in business presentation skills. She taught Sarah how to read an audience and understand what they really wanted to know. She showed Sarah how to use data to tell a compelling story instead of just showing numbers. "The most important thing," Margaret explained, "is to remember that executives are people trying to solve problems. They do not care about how smart you are or how much research you did. They care about whether you can help them make good decisions." Sarah took notes as Margaret talked. She realized that she was learning more in one evening than she had learned in 2 years of business school. Margaret's knowledge came from real experience with real people in real situations. "Margaret, where did you really learn all this?" Sarah asked. "I mean, I know you worked in accounting, but this goes beyond just numbers." Margaret was quiet for a moment as she remembered her past. "When I worked at Henderson Accounting, I was not just doing bookkeeping. I was helping small business owners understand their finances so they could make better decisions. I learned that knowledge is only useful if you can share it in a way that helps people." "You should be running a department somewhere," Sarah said. "You should be teaching business classes or consulting with companies. Why are you cleaning offices?" Margaret's expression grew sad. "Miss Sarah, the world does not always give people second chances. I am a 42-year-old black woman with a high school education. No company is going to hire me as an executive, no matter how much I know." Sarah felt angry at the unfairness of it all. "That is not right, Margaret. Talent should be what matters, not age or race or education." "You are right," Margaret agreed. "But that is the way things are. I have accepted my situation, and I am grateful to have any job at all. But helping you gives me a chance to use my knowledge again, and that makes me happy." Sarah made a decision that night. She was going to find a way to change Margaret's situation. She did not know how yet, but she was determined to help Margaret get the recognition she deserved. "Margaret, I want to keep learning from you," Sarah said. "But I also want to find a way to help you use your talents properly. You deserve so much more than this." Margaret smiled at Sarah's kindness. "Just focus on your own success, Miss Sarah. That will be enough reward for me. But I do appreciate your friendship more than you know." Over the next few weeks, Sarah and Margaret developed a secret system for working together. They had to be very careful because no one could know that a janitor was helping with important business presentations. Margaret would arrive at Sarah's office each evening after everyone had gone home. She would review the work that Sarah had prepared during the day. Then she would leave small notes with suggestions tucked under Sarah's computer keyboard, where only Sarah would find them. The notes were written in Margaret's careful handwriting on small pieces of paper. "Try moving the cost analysis to slide 3. This chart would be clearer as a bar graph instead of a pie chart. Remember to explain what this means for the customer." Sarah looked forward to finding these notes each morning. They were like having a personal business coach who understood exactly what she needed to improve. Margaret's advice was always practical and helpful. Sometimes Margaret would leave longer notes explaining business concepts that Sarah had never learned in school. "Executives think about return on investment first. Always show them how your idea will make money or save money. When presenting to senior management, keep your main points to 3 items. People cannot remember more than 3 things from a meeting." Sarah's work improved dramatically. Her presentations became clear and persuasive. Her reports were well organized and easy to understand. Other people in the office began to notice the change in Sarah's performance. "Sarah, you have really found your groove," said Tom Bradley, who worked at the desk next to hers. "Your last presentation to the board was fantastic. What happened? Did you take some kind of training course?" Sarah had to think quickly. "I have been studying successful presentations and practicing a lot. I guess it just finally clicked for me." Mr. Davidson was also impressed with Sarah's improvement. He started giving her more important projects and including her in high-level meetings. "Sarah, I do not know what you have been doing differently, but keep it up. Your work has become outstanding." Sarah felt proud of her success, but also guilty about keeping Margaret's health secret. She wanted to give Margaret credit, but she knew it would cause problems for both of them. One evening, Margaret found Sarah working on a particularly difficult project. The company was considering a merger with another firm, and Sarah had to analyze the financial benefits and risks. "This is really complicated, Margaret," Sarah said. "I have never worked on anything this big before. Mr. Davidson said this presentation could determine whether the merger happens or not." Margaret studied the financial documents that Sarah had spread across her desk. She looked at profit reports, income statements, and market analysis data. After 30 minutes of careful review, Margaret began to explain what she saw. "The numbers look good on the surface," Margaret said, "but there are some hidden problems. Look at this company's customer satisfaction scores. They have been dropping for 2 years. and their employee turnover is very high. That usually means internal problems. Margaret showed Sarah how to dig deeper into the data to find the real story. She taught Sarah how to spot warning signs that other analysts might miss. She explained how to calculate the real costs of a merger, including hidden expenses that companies often forget. You need to recommend against this merger, Margaret concluded. The other company has too many problems that will become our problems. The short-term financial gains are not worth the long-term risks. Sarah was shocked. Everyone else in the company seemed excited about the merger. The other executives were talking about how much money it would make. Are you sure, Margaret? What if I am wrong? What if I recommend against something that could have been good for the company? Miss Sarah, I have seen companies make mistakes like this before, Margaret said firmly. They get excited about big deals and forget to look at the details. Your job is to tell the truth about what the numbers really show, even if people do not want to hear it. Sarah spent the next week preparing the most important presentation of her career. She followed Margaret's analysis and recommendations exactly. She prepared charts that showed the hidden risks and problems with the merger. The night before the presentation, Sarah was nervous and scared. Margaret, what if they fire me for recommending against the merger? What if I ruin my career? Margaret sat down next to Sarah and spoke in a calm, steady voice. Miss Sarah, good analysts tell the truth even when it is difficult. If you get fired for doing honest work, then this company does not deserve you. But I do not think that will happen. I think they will respect you for doing your job properly. The next morning, Sarah walked into the boardroom to present her merger analysis. The room was full of senior executives, including the company president. Sarah had never presented to such an important audience before. Sarah began her presentation with confidence. She showed the financial benefits that everyone expected to see. Then she revealed the hidden problems that Margaret had helped her discover. She explained why the merger would be a mistake despite the attractive numbers. The room was quiet when Sarah finished. Some executives looked surprised and others looked concerned. Sarah wondered if she had just ended her career by disagreeing with everyone else. Finally, the company president spoke. Sarah, this is excellent analysis. You have identified serious problems that our other consultants missed. I am impressed with your thoroughness and your courage in presenting difficult information. The merger was canceled based on Sarah's recommendations. 6 months later, the other company went out of business exactly as Margaret had predicted. Sarah's reputation as a skilled analyst was established throughout the company. But Sarah knew that none of this success would have been possible without Margaret's hidden guidance and wisdom. 3 months after the merger presentation, Sarah had become one of the most respected analysts in the company. Her success had not gone unnoticed by the senior management team. Mr. Davidson called Sarah into his office on a Wednesday morning with a big smile on his face. Sarah, I have some exciting news for you, he said. The board of directors wants to meet with you next week. They are so impressed with your work that they want to understand how you developed such excellent analytical skills so quickly. Sarah felt her stomach drop. She had been dreading this moment for weeks. Her success was built on Margaret's expertise and wisdom, but she could never admit that without causing huge problems. They want to know about my methods, Sarah asked nervously. Exactly, Mr. Davidson replied. They want to understand your process so we can train other analysts to work at your level. You have shown remarkable improvement in just a few months. They think you might have discovered some new techniques that could benefit the whole company. Sarah left Mr. Davidson's office feeling sick with worry. How could she explain her methods without mentioning Margaret? How could she take credit for knowledge that was not really hers? But how could she tell the truth without destroying both their lives? That evening, Sarah waited anxiously for Margaret to arrive. When Margaret came into her office, Sarah immediately explained the situation. Margaret, the board wants to meet with me next week. They want to know how I became so good at analysis so quickly. They want me to teach other people my methods. What am I going to do? Margaret continued cleaning while she thought about the problem. Miss Sarah, you have learned a lot in these past months. You understand business analysis much better than you did before. You can teach people what you have learned. But Margaret, everything I know came from you, Sarah protested. I feel like I am stealing your knowledge and calling it my own. It is not right. Margaret stopped cleaning and looked at Sarah seriously. Miss Sarah, knowledge belongs to everyone. If you can use what I taught you to help other people, then that makes me happy. You do not owe me anything. Sarah shook her head. That is not good enough, Margaret. You deserve credit for your contributions. You deserve recognition for your expertise. I cannot keep pretending that I figured all this out by myself. What are you saying? Margaret asked quietly. Sarah took a deep breath. I am saying that I want to tell them the truth. I want to tell the board that you have been helping me. I want them to know how brilliant you are. Margaret's eyes widened with fear. Miss Sarah, you cannot do that. They will fire me immediately. They will think I was overstepping my boundaries. They might even fire you for accepting help from a janitor. Maybe, Sarah admitted, but I cannot live with this lie anymore. You have saved this company millions of dollars with your advice. You prevented a disastrous merger. You helped me become successful. You deserve recognition, not hiding. Margaret sat down heavily in a chair. Miss Sarah, I appreciate your loyalty, but you do not understand how the world works. Companies do not promote janitors to executive positions. They do not take advice from cleaning ladies. If you tell them about me, you will destroy both our careers. Sarah had been thinking about this problem for weeks. Margaret, what if we present it the right way? What if I tell them that I discovered an untapped resource within the company? What if I show them that talent exists in unexpected places? They will never accept it, Margaret said sadly. I have been invisible to these people for 3 years. They see me as someone who empties trash cans, not someone who understands business strategy. Sarah made a decision that would change everything. Margaret, I am going to tell them the truth whether you agree or not. I cannot take credit for your work anymore. If they fire both of us, then at least we will have our integrity. Margaret looked at Sarah with a mixture of fear and admiration. Miss Sarah, you are risking everything for me. Why would you do that? Because it is the right thing to do, Sarah replied. And because you deserve so much better than what this company has given you. Maybe they will surprise us. Maybe they will recognize your value once they understand what you can do. The following week, Sarah sat in the boardroom facing 8 senior executives, including the company president. She had prepared 2 presentations, one that would protect Margaret and continue the lie, another that would tell the complete truth and risk everything. Sarah, the president began, we are all very impressed with your analytical work over the past few months. Your insights have been valuable to this company. We want to understand how you develop these skills so we can help other employees reach your level. Sarah looked around the room at the expectant faces. These were powerful people who were used to getting what they wanted. They expected her to share some simple techniques that they could package into a training program. Sarah made her choice. Thank you for this opportunity. I need to be completely honest with you about how I developed my analytical skills. The truth is that I had help from someone unexpected, someone who has been working in this building for 3 years, but has never been recognized for her expertise. The executives looked confused. What do you mean, Sarah? Asked Mr. Davidson. Sarah's heart was pounding, but she continued. I mean that there is someone on our staff who has been providing brilliant business insights, while everyone assumed she was just a cleaning lady. I would like to bring her in to meet you if that would be acceptable. The room fell silent. Several executives exchanged glances of confusion and concern. Sarah could see that they were not sure what to expect. Sarah, the president said carefully, are you saying that a member of our custodial staff has been helping you with business analysis? Yes, sir, Sarah replied. And I believe that once you meet her and hear what she has to say, you will be as impressed as I have been. The boardroom became completely silent as Margaret walked in wearing her janitor uniform. 8 executives in expensive suits stared at her with expressions of confusion and disbelief. Margaret felt her hands shaking as she stood next to Sarah in front of the most powerful people in the company. The company president, Dr. Harrison, was the first to speak. Sarah, I am not sure I understand what is happening here. Are you telling us that this woman has been involved in your business analysis work? Sarah took a deep breath and answered confidently. Yes, sir. Margaret Washington has been providing expert guidance that has improved my work dramatically. She is the reason I was able to identify the problems with the merger proposal. She is the reason my presentations have become so effective. Mr. Davidson looked shocked and somewhat angry. Sarah, this is highly irregular. We have procedures and protocols for a reason. How long has this been going on? For about 4 months, Sarah replied. And in that time, the quality of my work has improved more than in my previous 2 years with the company. Dr. Harrison studied Margaret carefully. Margaret stood quietly with her hands clasped in front of her, trying to appear calm despite her fear. Mrs. Washington, is it? What is your background? Where did you learn about business analysis? Margaret's voice was soft but clear as she answered. I worked at Henderson Accounting in Detroit for 8 years, sir. I prepared financial reports and presentations for small business clients. I also trained junior accountants on analytical methods and presentation skills. And why are you working as a janitor instead of using those skills? Asked Mrs. Rodriguez from Human Resources. Margaret felt embarrassed, but answered honestly. I moved to Chicago 3 years ago when my marriage ended. I needed work immediately to support my daughter. I applied for accounting positions but could not find anything. I took the custodial job here because I needed income right away. Mr. Davidson was still skeptical. Even if that is true, how do we know that you actually contributed anything meaningful to Sarah's work? How do we know this is not just some kind of elaborate story? Dr. Harrison held up his hand to quiet the other executives. Those are fair questions. Mrs. Washington, would you be willing to demonstrate your analytical abilities? We have a current business problem that our consulting team has been struggling with. If you can provide useful insights, then we will know that Sarah is telling the truth. Margaret felt terrified, but nodded her agreement. I will try my best, sir. Dr. Harrison asked his assistant to bring in files related to their biggest current challenge. We have been losing market share to our competitors for the past year. Our consulting firm has provided several recommendations, but none of them have worked. Our marketing costs have increased, but our sales have not improved. Margaret was given 30 minutes to review the financial reports, marketing data, and customer feedback information. She sat at the conference table surrounded by executives who watched her every move. Some looked curious while others appeared doubtful. As Margaret studied the documents, she began to see patterns that the expensive consultants had missed. She made notes on a legal pad using the same methodical approach she had always used for business analysis. When the 30 minutes were finished, Dr. Harrison asked Margaret to share her findings. Margaret walked to the whiteboard at the front of the room and began drawing simple charts and diagrams. The problem is not with your marketing strategy, Margaret began. The problem is with your customer service process. You are spending money to attract new customers, but you are losing existing customers because of poor service experiences. She pointed to specific data in the reports. Look at these customer satisfaction surveys. Complaints about slow response times have increased by 40%. Complaints about incorrect billing have doubled. Your customers are telling you exactly what is wrong, but no one has been listening. Margaret continued her analysis, showing how service problems were creating a cycle of customer loss that no amount of marketing could fix. You are trying to fill a bucket that has holes in the bottom. Until you fix the service issues, you will keep losing customers faster than you can gain new ones. The executives began asking questions, and Margaret answered each one with detailed explanations. She showed them how to calculate the real cost of losing customers. She explained how improving service would be more effective than increasing marketing spending. Furthermore, Margaret continued, your competitor analysis shows that they are not winning customers because of better marketing. They are winning because they have faster response times and more accurate billing systems. Dr. Harrison was impressed despite his initial skepticism. Mrs. Washington, these insights are exactly what we needed. Our consultants focused entirely on marketing tactics, but you identified the root cause of our problem. How did you see what they missed? Margaret smiled for the first time since entering the room. Experience, sir. I have worked with many small businesses that had similar problems. When customers complain about the same things repeatedly, it usually means there is a process problem, not a marketing problem. Mrs. Rodriguez asked another question. What would you recommend as specific solutions? Margaret returned to the whiteboard and outlined a comprehensive plan for improving customer service systems. She identified which processes needed to be changed and estimated how much each improvement would cost. She also predicted how much revenue the company would gain by keeping more customers. The total investment would be about $200,000, Margaret concluded. But based on your customer data, this should reduce customer losses by 60%. That would increase annual revenue by approximately $3 million. The room was quiet as the executives absorbed what they had just witnessed. A woman in a janitor uniform had just provided better business analysis than their expensive consulting firm. Dr. Harrison finally spoke. Mrs. Washington, this is remarkable work. You have identified problems and solutions that our highly paid consultants completely missed. I have to ask why you have been cleaning our offices instead of working in our business development department. Margaret looked down at her hands. No one ever asked me, sir. No one ever knew that I had these skills. Mr. Davidson, who had been the most skeptical, now looked ashamed. Mrs. Washington, I owe you an apology. I have walked past you hundreds of times over the past 3 years and never thought to ask about your background or abilities. We all owe her an apology, Dr. Harrison said firmly. We have wasted 3 years of exceptional talent because we made assumptions based on job titles instead of evaluating actual capabilities. 2 weeks after the boardroom presentation, Dr. Harrison called Margaret into his office. She had continued working as a janitor while the executives discussed what to do with their unexpected discovery. Margaret felt nervous as she knocked on the door of the president's office. Please sit down, Mrs. Washington, Dr. Harrison said with a warm smile. I have been thinking about our meeting, and I want to offer you a position in our business development department. We need someone with your analytical skills and practical experience. Margaret could hardly believe what she was hearing. Sir, are you offering me a job in business development? But I do not have a college degree. I do not have the right credentials for that kind of position. Mrs. Washington, you just solved a problem that stumped our entire consulting team, Dr. Harrison replied. Your results speak louder than any degree could. We want to offer you a position as senior business analyst with a starting salary of $65,000 per year. Margaret felt tears forming in her eyes. After 3 years of being invisible, she was finally being recognized for her abilities. Sir, I would be honored to accept that position. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. The transition from janitor to business analyst was not easy for Margaret. She had to learn new computer systems and attend meetings with people who had previously never noticed her existence. Some employees had difficulty adjusting to seeing her in a business suit instead of a janitor uniform. On her first day in the business development office, Margaret wore a navy blue suit that she had bought with her first paycheck. She felt nervous as she walked through the building where she had cleaned floors for 3 years. Some people stared at her with curiosity while others smiled and nodded with approval. Tom Bradley, who worked near Sarah's desk, stopped Margaret in the hallway. Mrs. Washington, I heard about what happened in the boardroom. I think it is fantastic that the company finally recognized your abilities. I always thought there was something special about you. But not everyone was supportive of Margaret's promotion. Some employees whispered that she had received special treatment because of her relationship with Sarah. Others questioned whether someone without a college education belonged in a professional position. Margaret heard the whispers and gossip, but she tried not to let them bother her. She focused on doing excellent work and proving that Dr. Harrison had made the right decision. She arrived early every morning and stayed late to make sure her analysis was thorough and accurate. Sarah was Margaret's biggest supporter during the transition. Margaret, do not listen to the people who are jealous of your success. You earned this position through talent and hard work. Anyone who says otherwise is just showing their own prejudice. Margaret's first major project was implementing the customer service improvements she had recommended to the board. She worked with the operations team to redesign billing processes and train customer service representatives. The results were dramatic and immediate. Within 3 months, customer complaints decreased by 50%. Customer satisfaction scores improved to the highest levels in company history. The changes that Margaret recommended saved the company over $2 million in lost revenue. Dr. Harrison was so impressed that he asked Margaret to present her results to the board of directors. This time, Margaret walked into the boardroom wearing a professional business suit and carrying herself with confidence. "Ladies and gentlemen," Dr. Harrison announced, "I am pleased to report that Mrs. Washington's customer service initiatives have exceeded all expectations. She has demonstrated once again that we made the right decision in promoting her." Margaret presented her results with the same clear, methodical approach she had always used. The board members asked questions, and Margaret answered them expertly. At the end of the presentation, the board gave her a standing ovation. After 6 months in her new position, Margaret was given her own office with a window overlooking the city. She kept a small plant on her desk and a photo of her daughter, who was now proud to tell her friends that her mother was a business executive. But Margaret never forgot her roots or the lessons she had learned during her years as a janitor. She made it her mission to notice other employees who might have hidden talents or untapped potential. One evening, Margaret was working late when she noticed that Carlos, the night security guard, was reading a book about computer programming. She stopped to talk with him and discovered that he had been teaching himself software development in his spare time. "Carlos, have you ever thought about applying for a position in our IT department?" Margaret asked. Carlos looked surprised. "Mrs. Washington, I do not think they would consider someone like me. I only have a high school education, and my English is not perfect." Margaret smiled. "Carlos' talent is more important than credentials. If you are willing to work hard, I think I can help you get an opportunity to show what you can do." Margaret began mentoring Carlos the same way she had mentored Sarah. She helped him improve his technical skills and prepare for interviews. Within a year, Carlos was working as a junior programmer in the IT department. Margaret also noticed that Linda, who worked in the cafeteria, had excellent organizational skills and always seemed to understand what employees needed before they asked. Margaret convinced the Human Resources Department to give Linda the chance in their Employee Services division. Word spread throughout the company that Margaret Washington was someone who recognized potential in unexpected places. One year after her promotion, Margaret sat in her office reviewing quarterly reports when Dr. Harrison knocked on her door. He was smiling and carrying a folder that looked important. "Margaret, I have some exciting news," he said as he sat down across from her desk. "The board has decided to promote you to Director of Business Development. You will be responsible for overseeing all analytical work and strategic planning for the company." Margaret felt overwhelmed with gratitude and pride. In just 1 year, she had gone from cleaning offices to running an entire department. "Dr. Harrison, I do not know what to say. This is beyond anything I ever imagined possible. You have earned this promotion through exceptional work," Dr. Harrison replied. "Your customer service project saved us millions of dollars. Your market analysis helped us launch 3 successful new products. Most importantly, you have shown us the value of recognizing talent wherever it exists." Margaret's new office was on the executive floor with a view of the entire city. She had a team of 6 analysts working under her supervision, including Sarah, who had been promoted to senior analyst. Margaret's daughter visited the office and could hardly believe that her mother had achieved so much. "Mom, I am so proud of you," her daughter said as they looked out the window together. "You never gave up even when things were really hard. You showed me that anything is possible if you work hard and believe in yourself." Margaret's success story spread beyond Sterling Financial. Business magazines wrote articles about the janitor who became an executive. Universities invited her to speak to students about hidden talent and second chances. Other companies began looking more carefully at all their employees to see what abilities they might be overlooking. But Margaret's greatest satisfaction came from the mentorship program she created at Sterling Financial. She established a system for identifying employees who had potential that was not being used in their current positions. Every month, Margaret held informal meetings where any employee could discuss their career goals and hidden talents. She discovered that the security guard Carlos had become an excellent programmer. The cafeteria worker Linda was now managing employee relations. The mailroom clerk Josie had strong analytical skills and joined Margaret's business development team. Sarah remained Margaret's closest friend and strongest supporter. They often worked late together planning strategies and analyzing market trends. Sarah never forgot that Margaret had lifted her up when she was struggling, and she was determined to help other young employees succeed. "Margaret, you have changed this entire company," Sarah said one evening as they finished preparing a presentation for the board. "People are no longer invisible here. Everyone knows that their talents matter regardless of what job they currently have." Margaret smiled as she thought about how much had changed since that night when she first offered to help Sarah with her presentation. "Sarah, I learned something important during my years as a janitor. Every person has value and potential. My job now is to make sure that potential gets recognized and developed." The company culture at Sterling Financial became known throughout the industry for promoting people based on ability rather than background or credentials. Employee satisfaction increased dramatically because people felt valued and appreciated. Productivity improved as hidden talents were discovered and put to good use. Margaret established a scholarship program for employees who wanted to further their education. She created training programs that helped people develop new skills. She made sure that promotion opportunities were available to everyone regardless of their starting position. 5 years after her promotion, Margaret was invited to speak at the Harvard Business School. She stood in front of hundreds of future executives and told them about the importance of seeing potential in unexpected places. "The most valuable resources in any organization are often hiding in plain sight," Margaret told the students. "The person who cleans your office might understand your business better than your highest-paid consultants. The person who serves your lunch might have ideas that could transform your company. Your job as leaders is to create environments where all talents can be discovered and developed." After her speech, a young student asked Margaret what advice she would give to people who felt invisible in their organizations. Margaret thought for a moment before answering. "Never stop learning, and never stop believing in yourself. Prepare for opportunities even when you cannot see them coming. And remember that your current job title does not define your potential. Excellence will eventually be recognized if you are patient and persistent." On the flight home, Margaret reflected on her incredible journey from janitor to executive. She thought about all the people she had helped along the way and all the talents that had been discovered because someone finally bothered to look. When Margaret returned to her office the next morning, she found a note on her desk from a new employee in the accounting department. The note said, "Mrs. Washington, I heard about your story, and it gives me hope. I have been working in data entry for 2 years, but I have ideas about improving our financial reporting systems. Would you be willing to meet with me to discuss my suggestions?" Margaret smiled as she read the note. She picked up her phone and called the employee to schedule a meeting. There was still work to do and more hidden talents to discover. That evening, as Margaret walked through the Sterling Financial building, she passed the cleaning crew working their night shift. She stopped to chat with each person, asking about their backgrounds and interests. She knew that among these hardworking individuals, there might be the next great business mind waiting to be discovered.